Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at MS Dynamics World. On this episode, we are talking about successful Dynamics 365 finance and supply chain management implementations and what it takes to bring a project to a successful conclusion. My guest is Karolis Aleknavičius. He is the CEO of ERP Mechanics. Karolis tells me about his own career evolution in the ERP world, starting as an employee of a firm using Dynamics AX and then working internationally on various projects, as well as the last several years working as part of ERP Mechanics. ERP Mechanics is the sponsor of this episode, and we discuss one of the firm's specialties, which is ERP project rescues. It can be a difficult type of engagement. We also discuss the team's specialization in document automation with Lasernet and how that approach has aligned with their expertise on D365. All right, Karolis, welcome to the podcast. Can you maybe start by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I started with Exapta 2007. I think it was version 2.5 at that time. Yeah, I was in a SQL administrator at the time, just, knowing how to write SQL queries basically to get data out of Exapta, and then started development little by little. And then with the versions, 3, 4, 2009 and 12, I was playing different roles. So developer, administrator, then team lead, project manager, and for my projects as well, traveled quite some countries. So first country abroad was probably Finland, then was Austria, then Belgium, UK, and etc. So along the way, I would say many projects and many countries visited.
All right. So you started, I guess, as many do, at a customer site, and then moved on to serving lots of customers from AX all the way up to now through the D365 era, I guess you'd say, with finance and operations, supply chain management.
Yeah, correct. Basically, I was following projects where it was kind of open and mostly working on a customer side. Because I thought, to try as many customers and industries they're in would basically increase my value and my, knowledge sphere, basically. So that was aim really, to try as many as possible in different industries.
As I understand it, you really started your current firm, ERP Mechanics, in 2017. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
Tell me a little bit about the history of forming the company and that journey with D365 as sort of a channel business.
Yeah, so the idea to establish ERP Mechanics, I think it was in Austria. We were hiking with one of the co-founders, Idas, after working hours basically, and we discussed a bit about the future. We finishing the project, what's next, and basically it was my suggestion that we probably should go back home and then establish a company, because alone we can do very little anyway, but if we have a team, we can do much, much more. And yes, I decided that was a good idea, basically. And then we came back after a project, established ERP Mechanics, invited a few other colleagues as well. And I would say in a few months' time, we got the first Dynamics IX or IX7 at the time project in Finland, basically. At the beginning, we were just technical delivery team. So only technical people were involved, basically. That's why a name kind of comes up with like ERP Mechanics, which we know technically how it works and what to do, how to fix it, basically.
Okay. So really you started off as a technology group with specific hands-on skills, and the company has evolved from there?
Yes, because we were freelancers before, so traveling and following the projects. And it was mainly technical deliveries, what we have done or been good at. Yeah, it was easy as well, from Lithuania to deliver those projects, technical part, because of the language skills and requirements, and many other aspects like being on site and so on. Because we talk about times where COVID was not known, right? So remote for a consultant was not very normal, but for a technical person it was very normal.
I want to get into some of the common challenges you've seen over all this time. What kind of challenges are clients facing in Dynamics 365 implementations?
I would say as a system, as Dynamics 365, finance operations or finance supply chain got really a huge system or huge platform. That's probably the complexity of it, or integrations, or how that work all together became a challenge in resource planning as well. because previously when a system is small, you need very few resources, or maybe one person, plays like an orchestra, can do many things. And at this point with Dynamics 365 finance and supply chain is not really possible because the system is really, really big, I would say. So the first challenge I would say is to assess if the company or customer itself is ready, for implementation. Meaning if it's not just, I have money to buy licenses, it's all about team and resources and the time dedicated for a project, because a partner who comes in and is responsible for delivery, it's still not an owner, right? And ownership lies on the customer side, who has to dedicate time and really kind of drive it. So basically, I would say the challenge is to understand and assess capacities, right?
I imagine that must be an issue, or a challenge, not just in the initial sort of project initiation or selection of the software, but that must carry on throughout the life cycle of the project and beyond.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not as well not an IT project, right? It's the whole company project.
Mm-hmm.
And if you leave it just for IT, early days, you just install the software, and maybe someone comes in, does something, and it works. It's not anymore. It's really, I would say, business change or business project itself, and IT is just a supporting organization next to the whole company.
All right. And just one other question on this topic, and this might come up a few times, but given your background with AX, do the challenges or the discussions about new projects, do they differ between, say, an AX customer moving to Dynamics 365 versus maybe a company coming to Dynamics 365 from a totally different, ERP history?
I mentioned already that the size of the system is completely different. Now it's cloud, and previously was on-prem. So, maybe a software somewhere in your, room next to you or something like that. At the moment is, everything takes much longer. All development cycle is completely different, and it's more complex. The same as the processes, what you can implement as well, got much more complex. And basically, you have to really reevaluate if you have enough capacity on site to support a project.
Well, another thing I definitely wanted to learn from you in this conversation was when you encounter projects where you're not maybe starting with the client from day one. I know this is something that you maybe specialize in, and something that you encounter from time to time is getting involved in projects that are sort of in the middle of their execution. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, of course. That's probably our beginning. We kind of began from a project like you kind of described, which we call like rescue projects, where we jump in somewhere in the middle. And because of various reasons, probably, that someone failed or, left the project, and we have to, replace immediately. So those projects are quite tight in a way, because timeline is probably way behind. The money has been spent, and in a way we have to be creative in a way and dedicate and plan to work more than a day or 8 hours a day, because we have to kind of catch up with the timeline. And as well, we need to be smart in a way to see where we spend money, because most of the money has been spent already. But those projects are rewarding as well, because if you make it work, I would say I don't remember the ones we haven't. So I would say we were pretty successful. And those projects are rewarding, as I said. It's really a good reference at the end, and those people or those companies are happy to reference than us going forward. And I would say companies now 8 years in a market, and we never had a sales team or someone who would sell us on the market or market us on the market as well. It's basically people talking around, spreading the good word about us, and that's how we kind of survive those years, and that's how we attract new prospects and get new customers.
It really is a unique skill or a unique specialization, though, to situations that are very difficult, as you just described. I mean, when you engage with those companies, they've been through a lot already. They've been through some difficult decisions and some pain. Can you talk about any examples? And you don't necessarily, I'm not asking you to name customers by name or anything, but can you share a story or an example of a scenario like this and what it's like?
Yeah, of course, I cannot name the companies. because usually those don't want to be on the news anyway. But there are very simple ones. For example, the project has to go live, like in a month's time, like 4 weeks. And the company was testing a recent developments made by the partner, and basically realized that it simply doesn't work. And it's not like a one feature there and there doesn't work, but the whole thing doesn't work. And somehow they realized that, their documentation, what they have signed so far, like a functional design documents and so on, were not so good and so on. So it was really crash in a team and on the end user side as well, in the partner side. And what they asked us to come in and bring as many people as possible, to fix the code, to be able for them to go live, basically. And it was a really important project. It was related to blood donations and etc. And that project went live, basically. So I think we did a good work there. There are projects as well which are not only technical topics related, as well that let's say after analysis or after design phase, partner leaves because of different reasons, and we jump in as well and take over. And there probably is the most important thing is the trust, how to drive the project forward with the customer, because case 2 is different from a case 1, because case 1 is just like technical delivery where you can really monitor and it's short. But then when you come back to case 2, where you have a full project, and especially if analysis took, let's say, a year or so. So it's not so easy to take over. Needs time and assessment as well. And then special agreements made with the customer. Let's say, if you want to kick off very quickly because, schedule is behind and etc., then you cannot really go and read what has been done through those years, right? So you need to kind of agree like on a percentage, let's say 20 or whatever, 10%, like a margin or leverage if you are kind of increase the budget at some point. And if customer is, flexible and agrees that, it's really quick and easy start, but that trust somehow the customer needs to be built because customer, spent some money already and we are asking for even higher margin or higher assessment than before. But those projects has been in the past and we successfully took over and kind of finished it. So
if there were F&O customers listening or someone who's perhaps in the middle of a project right now engaged with a Microsoft partner on a project and executing on it, do you have any simple recommendations of maybe things they should stay aware of or watch very carefully to know that their project is healthy, or perhaps to look out for warning signs that it's unhealthy?
I would say customers should not only follow kind of the project timeline, right? But they should understand how big in a time frame, how big is a task? Because usually, they say, okay, put till the deadline is like 4 weeks or 4 months, but usually don't realize how long it takes to deliver such task or a milestone. So this awareness really helps a lot if you have it and if you can assess. It really helps to understand as well if your project is healthy or not at a very early stage, I would say.
I wanted to move on to another topic that I think is really interesting, and I'm looking forward to learning a bit from you. ERP Mechanics also specializes not just in ERP, but also in document automation, along with F&O. Can you talk a little bit about developing that specialization and your work with Lasernet?
I would say we are a newer entry in the Lasernet space, but our, I would say, history started probably 2012, I would say, where we had the first touch to Lasernet. We knew that from as well Axapta, 2012 customers back then, or at the moment then I was 365 finance supply chain customers. I was working with in a utility sector, and in the utility sector, Lasernet is very popular because of its speed and performance in generating lots of documents, in one go kind of. So in utility sector, Lasernet is very popular and very common. And I had to look at documents development basically, because reports needs to be designed and developed. And Dynamics or Axapta knowledge is required as well, because you have to write some queries and etc. So the first, like I said, touch was 2012. Even prior ERP mechanics has been found. But then later on as well, year by year, we kind of got to know Lasernet and Lasernet reports and then development work related. And just recently, we started to kind of dive into it much more and understand what it can bring as an add-on, as a product, not only just one, I would say one line, which is reports. So we are kind of as well progressing into exploring it and to kind of understanding what value it could bring to the customer, not only just using reports into a certain sector or certain area.
All right, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've had the members of the Formpipe team on this podcast in the past, and they always have really interesting stories, I think, as you mentioned, both from an industry perspective and I think from maybe you'd say a workflow perspective or sort of like an automation perspective as it relates to D365 scenarios. So I imagine when you work with clients and you're working with Lasernet, you must see a lot of those same opportunities, right, across industries.
That's correct. That's why, we like Lasernet, and that's why we kind of decided to work with it, because having both products in our portfolio really helps a lot us as a company as well to grow and offer certain functionalities and benefits to the customer.
Well, I want to get a little bit of perspective from you, just looking forward a bit. What's new in the company, and maybe what are you looking forward to with your own team or with the Microsoft technology that we've been talking about today?
Yeah, so I would say last year's our team grew a lot. And like I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, it was very technical at the beginning. And now I think we have more functional people. Of course, the product itself has evolved, and it requires that company who tries or goes for implementations has to have lots of functional resources in a team. As the company grew as well, we are kind of looking for strong relations and partnerships with companies like Formpipe, having an add-on which brings lots of value to the customer. So I would say, next year is more like a partnership year where we'll try to build as many partnerships and bring more value to the end customers.
All right, excellent. On the F&O customer side, do you have any expectations about what you think your clients might be looking at in the next year if you think about maybe supporting your existing customers?
I would say everyone, they want to just successfully finish the project as a start, right? Because, they are, all the Dynamics 365 finance and supply chain customers, they understand that, let's say, it's a huge platform which needs time and efforts to be implemented. And by implementing it, not necessarily says that work is done, right? So it's just the beginning of a journey, I would say, where everyone then takes a next step, to increase performance, automate more, digitize more, and, implement more and more, I would say, efficient ways of working. And Dynamics 365 finance for supply chain just, gives those opportunities.
All right, excellent. Well, it's been great getting a chance to speak with you today. I hope we can talk more in the future. I love learning about project rescue type of stories and the wisdom that comes out of that, and hearing what's next as you think about some of the innovative product and service offerings that you're developing. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jason.
This has been another episode of the MSCW podcast. My thanks once again to Karolis for joining me, and this message from ERP Mechanics. Whether it's a new or existing project, ERP Mechanics' focus as expert D365 F&O and Lasernet developers, architects, and consultants is to minimize risk, reduce costs, and deliver your project on time. They offer a free consultation and trial of their services. Learn more about how they can help at www.erpmechanics.com. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can send me an email, jason@msdynamicsworld.com. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.